This movie might be the age-old question. What happens after death? Or that timeline between maybe dying and dying. What's in that limbo? Chase Liaki here with the Blue Futon reviewing After Death. So what's this about? Pretty simple premise is a documentary of people's experience of having a horrific event happening in their life and just between, you could call it in limbo, call it in, between different worlds. What is happening between basically life and death? And this is a very interesting movie where they go into a deep dive of doctors, people that try to commit suicide, people that get in horrific accidents, and their different experiences and what it did to them personally, mentally, and just the overall landscape of their lives. So did I like this film? It was pretty good. I liked it. I liked the landscape, I liked the cinematography, and I liked the interviews. Yes, can some of the interviews been a little bit more robust? Could some of them been trimmed down so I could get a little bit more of the other more important or interesting stories? I do think so. And there are a lot of stories, and I think that's a good thing and also a bad thing because at some point you kind of like you forget about a story where you're focused on this plane crash one, then you're focused on this one that happened on a bridge, then you're focused on something else, especially one about Northern Kentucky professor, and then goes into other stories and it waits like 30 minutes and it goes back to those stories, and then the little stories in the middle kind of close out at the end, but some of them just feel a little bit incomplete. But it is everyone's story through and throughout. So when we go about the positives, like I said, the B-roll footage in between each story is freaking gorgeous. The mountains, the oceans, the landscapes. It feels like it could have been a Planet Earth or like just a Planet Earth, Blue Earth, the ocean type of documentary because it looked that fantastic. It felt like 4K quality. It felt like I was on those helicopters zooming through those mountains going above the ocean. Freaking gorgeous. And of course, it's a documentary, so let's talk about biases as well as the stories in general. Are there biases in this show? The reason I say I don't think there's a lot of biases is due to the fact I don't say you get both sides because it's hard to say, oh, these people are lying because who am I to tell of someone's personal experience? And we are kind of in that realm where if you don't believe someone's personal experience, you think that they're lying or you're just assuming their personal experience. And there's one really good story about the Northern Kentucky one. I'm just going to tell his side of the story about at the very end where it goes no joke. He has the experience. He's trying to explain to people, like, this is what happened to me. Like, this is what I experienced when I was, like, if you want to call it in a coma, in heaven, in hell, for this X amount of time. And people just go to him and, like, sleep it off. Sleep it off. And that is very disheartening. It truly is, because who am I to say what this person experienced? Some people are such, like, if it's not science, you just can't believe it whatsoever. Like, how dare you even think about that? And I think this is what happened in his life, is where his wife was like, nope, I don't believe you at all. You're fucking crazy. I don't want even you, my children. And having that, you're just like, damn, how can you, like, just be so heartless and cruel that you can't see this your husband's side of the story and what he experienced? You're that close-minded and just evil. Okay, evil might be a little bit of a stretch, but you want to take your kids away from your father and kind of like, sabotage your relationship between your father and the children because you don't like what he went through and what he's spouting. That's just really nasty overall of that woman to do it. Nasty woman, in Trump's words. Nasty woman. Then you also have just interesting stories about with the Korean, where it went so south. I did not know where this Korean story was going, but it was like, oh shit. That's all I could say. And at the very end, I was like, okay, it's a good closure. But I wish it kind of explained it. And there's also one with the doctor, where this doctor's like, how does this patient know what is happening to her? And he couldn't explain it, so he had to leave. And I find that I want to know more of those sides of the story of people that are like complete science driven and they don't believe anything except numbers and pencils, numbers and letters and formulas and equations. Because you have engineers that if you can't solve it out for them, they can't comprehend. Street smarts versus book smarts. And I would like to get those sides of the story. Because also you have the plane crash one, like I said. This one about a femur coming out of this guy's body. Like, there are some grotesque stories overall, but it is hard to say, nope, you didn't go through that. Nope, you didn't. Or your mind's playing tricks on you. Like, who am I to say that to a person? And we have people in the world nowadays who just refuse to be open-minded about anything. You see it on these YouTube videos. You see it on just people in general where they have an opinion. You try to counteract it, even with facts like, oh, let me show you something that really occurred. No, I refuse to look at it. You're just like, you're the people that are ruining this world. And I kind of said it in It's a Wonderful Knife review about just people don't know what's out there. People have been sheltered in their own countries. Like, for example, in America, people, Gen Z, are sheltered. They're selfish. They're in that, YouTube era, if you want to put it that way, TikTok era of, that TikTok fame. And I don't know where I'm going with this. Where am I going with this? Oh, yeah, I'm going with this of, being just closed-minded and not understanding other people. And with this movie documentary, I do think it gives a light because I'm terrified of death. Terrified, terrified, terrified. And, this kind of goes into a realm of when my sister passed, of what my mom was saying and stuff like that about, what is heaven like and, hell. And is it better up there? Because there were experiences in this movie where it's like people were depressed coming back from heaven because it was just so glorious. The music was perfect. Just their vision was awe-inspiring. And now they're kind of back to their real world. And it's like a double-edged sword because, yes, that is true. That is an awe-inspiring experience. But what about the people on Earth that if you go there, you're diminishing their returns of just having life with that person? So, yes, there are some interesting selfishness to it with some of these characters about how they would just rather go to heaven and not be with their kids or grandchildren. And like I said, I cannot say they're wrong because I didn't know what they experienced, but it's hard for me to say. It's just hard for me to understand and comprehend. But am I going to chastise a person for that? Absolutely not. So overall, After Death is a well-told documentary. It has all the right notes to it. Great B-roll footage. If I had to give some negatives, I do think there might be a little bit of pacing issue with how they want to edit the stories, as well as some stories felt like it's a little elongated, while some stories I think should have been enhanced. Enhance this picture. So After Death will receive a 4 out of 5 with Futons, which equals at 80%. And seriously, my biggest fear in life is death. And that's the one thing I cannot not stop. And I think that's what even freaks me out the most. Because, like I said, this movie makes me think about what is after death, or what is before death, or what is in that little limbo area. I don't know. Kind of scares me. Anyway, there's 4 critics, 80% with the audience score, and the critics. I am tired, guys. We got 2 negative, 2 positives. The positive is a 3.5 out of 4, pretty good. And then we have a person's New York Times giving it a negative, shocker, and then IndieWire giving it a D, shocker. Anyway, 50, 80, 80. Chase Zaki here with the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know things Butantopia. You Butons think it's a great day. Now, here, watch this tape tomorrow, week from now, month from now, year from now. I love every single freaking one of you. Yeah. Death scares me. Oh, that's my fear. Because I'm going to miss out on all the cool shit.